In this episode I will show you how to make bust starts on this T design with the Lacy cables. It is a bit different than when doing bust starts on a simple stockinette stitch T. We make the bust starts using the short row technique, and when we do the turns, as we do the turns here, we will be at different rows of the stitch pattern on the same working row. So we just have to pay a bit more attention. But how will you know if you need bust starts and what is bust starts? Let's have a look at the picture here beside me. I'm wearing a tee of this design, and as you can see, I have reached the fullest point of my bust. However, the tee does not level front and back. And now is the time for me to decide if I want bust starts. If I want the tee to level, then I should apply bust starts. If I do not mind that my tee raises in the front compared to the back, then I don't apply bust starts. So that was one thing. And then let's look at the next picture here, because in this picture I have made the bust starts. So I have worked the tee back and forth here to buy a bigger piece and get the extra piece of fabric that I need to cover the bust. And I will show you in a minute how we work these horizontal bust starts using the short row technique. Before we start the short rows, we have to make sure that we have made this neckband, the I-cord neckband, because in this way we make sure that the tee sits as it should before starting to tailor the body. So this is important. And yeah, the next thing which is worth mentioning is that when we do the bust starts, it is important that we don't start the first turn right in the apex part here. So we have to make sure it is starting at the sides of the bust. And of course I have included this in the design, so for every size I make sure that this is the case. And before we start, let's have a look at the schematics, because here you see the number of cable heights given, and for each cable height you will see the number of rows to do. One cable height, 4 rows, 8, 12, 16, 20, and on it goes. And on this axis here you see this is the end of row, so the front of the tee, and then I work to the left side here and meet the stitch marker and do a turn and work on the back side to over here and do a turn, and so on. So you will see the 10 turns here and the row height here. For this specific tee, for my size, bust size, I need 4 cable heights. So I know I need 16 rows, and this will be 8 turns. I can see that when I go in here. So now I need to place the stitch markers. And as you can see, I have used 2 colors to distinguish the sides when reading the pattern. So we start placing the stitch markers here at the underarm. So here you see the center stripe and the center stitch. So the first stitch marker to place is here at the closest to the center stitch. So on the left hand side, the stitch markers are 1 stripe apart, and on the left hand side of the purl stitch in between the stripes. And on the right hand side we do the same thing. We start here at the underarm at the purl stitch closest to the center stitch, but on the right hand side the stitch marker is on the right side of the purl, so again with 1 stripe apart. Let's have a look at the last schematics here so that you can get a feel of the rhythm of the pattern changes between stitch markers. So here you see the center of the tee being the EOR, the beginning or end of row, and on this side you see the right side stitch markers. This is a black and white print, so you cannot see the color, but this is the purple colors being on the right side, and here you see the wrong side stitch markers being the orange ones. And I have made this schematic here with 2 cable repeats, that is 8 rows, and starting on the 9th row. And the way you read it is that when going on the right side, being the uneven numbers, you read the schematic in this direction, and when you go back and turn, wrap and turn, you read in this direction. So that's how it goes. And actually, when you have made 1 cable repeat, it's the same thing over again. So I will show you the first 4 rounds, and I will get back to you when I have made 2 cable repeats, and also show you what happens if you make a wrong pattern. What I mean by that is that on now when we do the turns and work on the wrong side, sometimes we need to do an SPR1 row on the wrong side, and I missed one, so I tell you here how you can easily correct it when you meet it on the right side. And as we start an SPR3 row, when we turn back it will be SPR4, and so on, it changes. But actually I think once you get started you don't even need this, because when you look at your knitwear you will easily see on which row you are, so that in between the markers you will see what to do. And as I started this video, this is the tricky part compared to a simple stockinette stitch, because at some point we will have each row of the stitch pattern on the same working row. So we have to be very careful and be in mind of where we are. And this is why, as we usually take off these stitch markers when we have done the short row, but in this case we will keep them until we are done, because each time we meet a stitch marker we know that we have to be aware if and which stitch row to use between the markers. So enough talking, now for the doing. And I'm here at end of row, so I will just work my way to the first stitch marker and we will do the first turn, and I will start on an SPR3 row here. I'm here at the first turn, and I have just made the purl stitch in front of the marker. So now I will just turn and go back. So there are many ways of doing short rows. I do them using the German short row technique. So I just slip the first stitch and tighten, not too much, not too little, because if I tighten too much, the stitches beside the wrap stitch will look looser. If it is too loose, this would look looser than these ones, and so on. So it is a balance and experience to do the right tension of the turn. And then I go back, and when you read this one here, L1, this is left hand side stitch marker 1, and I go back, and then I have to do SPR4, and it is a simple tree trunk row. So I will just go to the EOR, and then I will shift to SPR3. However, SPR3 is the same as the tree trunk row, as there is only action on SPR1 and 2. So I will continue to the right hand side orange marker, and we will meet up there. I'm now here at R1, the orange marker. So I need to do a turn, and let's look at the right hand side of the project, which row of the stitch pattern we need to do. So again, I do the German short row, I wrap and turn, and I make sure I have the 2 legs here, then I have tightened it so that it fits. The first is the tree trunk stripe, so that one is easy. And let's have a look here. It should be SPR3 before end of row here, which is here, but instead of just trusting what I've written in the pattern, of course it should be right, but always look at your knitwear to see if you are at the right place. So I can see here I have just made this SPR3 round, so now I'm at SPR4, and I go over this end of row. Let's meet at end of row here and see how it changes. I'm here at end of row and just finalize this SPR4 row. So I slip the marker and look over here. So I can see I've made an SPR4 round or row here, so I need SPR1. So let's look at the schematics. I've added this to keep track of the lines here. I should be on the right hand side on row 3, and I should start SPR1 until I meet stitch marker number 1 on the left hand side, the purple one. And this is exactly what we see. So I will just work on to the first stitch marker. I'm here now just in front of stitch marker number 1, L1, and I can see the 2 legs of the wrapped stitch. So I will just purl this one and slip the marker, and now look at where I'm at. So I can see I've just made a yarn over row, which is SPR2, so it should be SPR3 now. And let's see after stitch marker number 1, SPR3. Yes, I'm happy, I'm on track. So I just work on to the next stitch marker, L2 here, and I do the same thing. I work the purl stitch, I wrap and turn. And now I have to go back. So I shift this one up 1 row, and I'm ready for row 4 on the wrong side. So after L2, I should have an SPR4 row. Let's look. Yes, I can see I just made the SPR3. So I will just purl these 3 stitches, and I slip the marker being L1. So after L1, it should be SPR2. Again, I will look at my piece. This is a tree trunk in this size, so I can just work the purl stitches. And SPR2 it is, because I had SPR1 on the former row down here. So yes, it makes sense. So now I will just make a yarn over row, and we can meet when I reach end of row here. I'm at end of row now, so let's see. It should be SPR1 on the other side here onto the first marker on the right hand side, the orange one. So let's have a look at the piece. We can see that we have 2 purl ridges here, and on the right hand side there are 2 knit stitches. So yes, it is true, so to speak, that we are on the SPR1 row now. Usually we do the SPR1 seen from the right hand side, where we pass over this stitch over the 2 knit stitches here. So we make sure it leans to the right side. Now we have to do it on the wrong side, but it's no problem at all. I will just show you. We purl the 2 stitches. We place them back onto the left hand needle, still with the yarn in the front. Then we grab the leg of the 3rd stitch on this left hand needle, and we pass it over the 2 stitches here that we purled. And now we place these 2 stitches back on the right hand needle. Let's have a look. and we can see that it looks exactly like this one made from the right side. So that's the way to do it. We can do one more, and then I think we all see the drill. 2 pearl stitches, place them back on the left needle with the yarn in the front, pick up the leg here from the 3rd stitch, pass over the 2 stitches, maybe a bit fiddly, place the 2 stitches back on the right hand needle, and off we go. So let's meet when I reach the first orange stitch marker here, being on the wrong side, ready to turn to the right side. I am now here at R1. I have worked the SPR1, so now it should be SPR3 until I meet R2 stitch marker 2 here. So the first one is the wrap stitch, looking like 2 stitches, so I just knit it. I slip the marker and I have a look if in between R1 and R2 here is SPR3. Let's have a look. Yes, I just did the yarn over row being SPR2, so we have a match. And I'm now at my 3rd turn, so I just knit the stitch, I turn the work. I can now move up from row 4 to row 5, and as you can see I finalized the first cable repeat. So from here on after it's the same thing over again with the cable repeat number 2. The only difference now is that of course I have more turns to do, but it's the same principle. So let's meet up when I have reached row 9 here, and I will also show you how to correct a mistake, because here at some point you make the SPR1 row on the wrong side, and I did a mistake, and I will show you how you can easily correct this mistake. So now I am on row 9, that is after the EOR, so I will just work my way here, and we are where we started 2 cable heights ago. But let's see, I think I saw an error here. Yeah, well, you see I forgot to make an SPR1 row here on the wrong side of the fabric. It's no problem. Then I just correct it here on this side, and we know we don't need to knit this one. It has to be slipped over the stitches. So I just place those 2 over here and pass over this one. So now I'm ready to do the yarn over row. So that's how you can easily correct if you made a mistake when doing the SPR1 row on the wrong side of your project. No problem at all. I have now finalized 2 cable repeats. I need in total 4, but by these 8 rows it will be exactly the same, so I will do that myself. But before I do this, let's have a look and a status on where we are. So we just completed the 8 rows, being at this place here at end of round, ready to do start row 9 here. You see the stitch markers here, and we have worked our way to the 4th one. So the turns are here in between. So can you see it? I think it is hardly seen. It is hidden, but of course you will see an angle. That's the whole idea of the wedge or the bust darts. Let's have a look over here. So the first turn was here, the next here, the 3rd here, and the 4th is on the needle still. So you can see the beginning of this trapezoidal shape here. that we have made now 2 cable repeats. We started here, so 1, 2. And you can see when I did this turn, I think I did it too tight, because the next one to it here looks loose. Perhaps I can work it a bit here, but let's see. You know me by now, I am a bit picky when it comes to the finishing of the project. But yeah, so I will just do the next 8 rounds and we can have a look when it is done and final. Let's have a look at the turns from the wrong side. Perhaps it's easier to locate them. I just made the last turn here, so that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now let's have a look at the right hand side. And let's see if we can see them here. So here's the last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, well, it's a good thing if I have a hard time locating them. So maybe this one is a bit different, and I will try to correct from the other side later on. However, these 6 cable repeats, giving me the extra fabric needed in the front, left me with a stitch pattern out of sync when considering the whole round. So let's meet up in the next episode and I will show you how to get the stitch pattern in sync again, how we do some synchronizing rounds and use an illusional trick to get it aligned. So just a teaser, we will do this illusional trick and make the repeats of these cables only with 3 rounds instead of 4 to make the adjustment in the sides, and hence we can keep working with the same stitch pattern all the way around the needle. So it's actually very simple. So Roger and over until the next episode, synchronization rounds.